don't you guys just love when people are hired into this industry when they don't care about video games, don't care about entertainment, and hate your guts? Well, it looks like they are getting another chance to push their ideology onto everybody because now a quote unquote new gender focused video game site was announced, and literally nobody on the face of this earth cares. I have a few different things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, you would not be shocked to hear that the two women who are starting the site previously worked at Kotaku, at Polygon, over the past decade, have pushed bullshit about the video game industry, saying it wasn't a safe space for women, it wasn't inclusive. They, of course, were around during the days of Gamergate 1, saying it was a massive harassment campaign, and now apparently they are starting a new gender-focused video game site that focuses on gender inclusivity and building community, which is insane. People like this are hired into this space unfairly. They are hired based on their gender or their skin color or their sexuality. There are millions upon millions of gamers out there who would love to be able to talk about video games every day the way that they are and wouldn't want this space changed. But of course, the loudest activists get a say. The loudest people on the internet who hate this industry are who these companies are listening to. So, a former Polygon editor, Maddie Meyers, and Zoe Hannah have just announced a new game publication with a focus on games culture, community, and stories that speak to players of all genders. Dubbed Mothership, the site and community was announced today with a full launch due on January 26th. In an intro video, the editors ask interested readers and viewers for their support so the team can produce stories about the state of labor, gender, equity, and culture in gaming, while also building an online community where we all feel comfortable. Now, I am obviously a woman myself. I don't feel comfortable with the fact that this is clearly a misandrous site, but if I was a man, I definitely wouldn't be clicking on their trash articles because it's called Mothership. It is clearly aimed towards women, and you clearly are going to be attacking men in this space. It says the site is proudly queer and woman-owned, and Meyers noted in an email that it seeks to really serve and resonate with its intended audience. We are writing for the girls, gays, and theys, and just truly embracing that. So yeah, it's not for men who, by the way, make up the majority of the video game industry in terms of readership. There have always been women in the video game industry, whether we're talking about Roberta Williams, whether we're talking about Amy Hennig. We are talking about a space that has always been inclusive, and the fact that you are going out of your way to start a site for the girls, gays, and theys clearly just means that it is a grift. You don't actually care about this industry. You don't actually care about telling the full story, especially when you know who these women actually are. Now, I hadn't heard anything about Zoe Hannah before, but Maddie Meyers is someone I instantly recognize the name of. I could not sit here in a 5-hour video and get through all of the political and very biased takes that this person has pushed over the years, but we'll go through just a few. Kotaku's Maddie Meyers goes to Counter-Strike tournament in Boston, dismayed by the U.S. Air Force sponsorship, Americans cheering for the American team and the all-white men. She was furious that there was a U.S. Air Force sponsorship. So somebody who clearly doesn't care about their country, and they think that it's a crime to cheer for your own country during sporting events. Maddie Meyers reviewed an arcade as sexist and misogynist in an article written for the Boston Phoenix in 2012, and she never even when this is a problem with video game journalists in general, they will review games that they've never touched a day in their life or that they couldn't even get through the tutorial of. This was a Kotaku article with the tag of sexism, the cost of being a woman who covers video games, saying 10 years ago the gender imbalance in the video game industry was not seen as a problem to be solved so much as a mundane and largely unquestioned reality. Of course, I have said this, and I will continue to say it as a woman in the video game space. I face harassment and hatred from the left far more than I do anyone on the right. Why is that? That's right, because if you are a woman or a man or somebody who doesn't push their politics, they label you an enemy and try to get you deplatformed, delegitimized, and they want you to lose your job in this space. If you are not in their cult, you are against their cult, and therefore they want you destroyed. She said that games were for straight men and gaming websites were too. That is not the case. I have never went to a website and said, oh yeah, this definitely isn't for me because I'm a woman. I either enjoy the content that might not have been marketed for me, but it still is for me because I can appreciate it. Or you know what I do? I just click off of a site, or I just don't play the game. And sure, I talk about it because I can criticize it, but ultimately, you're sitting here and saying, oh my gosh, women have never been accepted in this space, when that isn't true. Some of the biggest series of all time in video games feature women. Look at The Last of Us before you Joel and One, the main character. Look at Bayonetta. Look at Lara Croft and Tomb Raider. Look at Beyond Good and Evil. I mean, we could sit here and go on and on all day about strong women in video games and this space ultimately, yes, being inclusive. One woman's battle against the anxious masculinity of the fighting game scene. This is from 2012, where, yes, she says men aren't allowed to have their own space. Men aren't allowed to be competitive because it makes women uncomfortable. Oh, here's an article about Bayonetta 3 where she says that Bayonetta and Jean are in a queer relationship when, funny enough, they didn't play Bayonetta 3 because in Bayonetta 3, it's established that Bayonetta is actually straight. Bayonetta had a daughter. Bayonetta was married too. That's right, a man. So we are talking about women who are now starting a misandrist website saying F men, nobody cares about men, nobody should care about men, and ultimately that we need to focus on women in this space and women deserve more attention. And while they claim it's going to focus on gender inclusivity, you know for a fact that it is going to exclude men or make them a target. They don't want men in this community anymore. They don't want video games to be a male hobby anymore, and I'm sure almost every single article they post is going to frame men as being evil, and even journalists at sites like Kotaku are praising this, saying Mothership is a new website about gender in games, which feels like a radical thing to launch in 2026, but shouldn't be. I should start a male-dominated site, and I should actually talk about how, oh, women are unfairly represented in video games nowadays, and oh, women are being handed all these opportunities unfairly. Imagine the meltdowns that would ensue, but because it's the left that's doing it, guys, that means it's actually okay, in their opinion. So I'm sure I will be keeping a close eye on this Mary Sue knockoff website that literally nobody is going to support or read. But we are finding out that Mothership is a new gender-focused video game site, and it sounds absolutely ridiculous. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this important and informative, make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I'll talk to you all again in the next video really soon.